Look, I think ultimately, if this didn't happen, strategic breakup was basically a done deal. And I think U.S. government recognized not necessarily national security, but like they needed to revive Intel. Clearly unorthodox in terms of the structure. But look, for Intel, I mean, it's a little Cinderella story, at least that's happening here. Based on a lot of dark days I've seen the last few years.
And Lisa, you may not be aware, but the preseason rankings for college football have come out, and Penn State is number 2. And that's the highest I can remember.
Okay.
And I've been following these dudes for a long time, since I was a kid. Hey, Dan, how do investors feel about the U.S. government taking a direct equity investment in a company? What have you heard from some of Intel's shareholders?
Look, I mean, obviously it's a head scratcher. Well, if you're an Intel shareholder, you're popping the champagne, right? I mean, because this is something came out of left field, and obviously the SoftBank as well. But look, it does it crosses into a gray zone, right? I mean, a sort of line in the sand. Like Lisa was saying, does it end here? Is there more like this? And I think that's the issue, is that like as government gets more into, especially when it comes to chips and AI, there's a lot of unintended consequences, and I think that's some of the worry.
And then we have SoftBank buy-in. So I guess the thinking behind this is there's a potential for a turnaround at Intel. I mean, do you see that?
I mean, look, I think there's a better chance of me playing Bethpage Ryder Cup in September than a turnaround Intel. Now again, like I'm not saying like you definitely have clearly like they're a lot better today than they were 24 hours ago. But look, this is an Everest like uphill climb. I mean, Intel is run like motor vehicle, and that's a big problem.
Secretary Lutnick was on another network today saying that we need to bring more chip manufacturing back to the U.S. That's been a theme of President Trump as well. How do you think about it? How should the U.S. proceed here, do you think?
Look, I mean, they're trying to lay the groundwork, and obviously you've seen investments, but the reality is it's going to be really more around AI, and it's going to be about a lot more of like what I'll call next gen technologies. The reality is, as I've said, to produce chips in the US and the supply chain, moving over from Asia to the US, I view as it's almost an impossibility. And relative to cost structure, taking 4 to 5 years to build a factory, and then just the reality of the IP that's really based in Asia. So, look, they have great talking points and they're moving the needle. But the reality is, like I've said, like that's going to be, I'll call it 4 to 5 years before you see any sort of real movement there.
Hey, Dan, I got to take you back to that 10% stake. Can you explain how exactly it's going to be funded?
Look, that's good. I mean, you could go back to maybe some of those like Fannie Freddie, like, days, like odd structures, government, almost like in terms of how they're going to actually get paid back, what the ownership is, debt, equity. Look, and I think the devil's in the details, right? In terms of, do you have a board seat? Are you a board observer? I mean, I think those are some of the sort of questions that need to get asked. But it all comes down to like, I think it delays a breakup, but I still believe the end result for Intel is going to be a strategic breakup.
So, Dan, what's the next big thing that we're going to be talking to you about in the coming weeks, do you think? Is it an earnings release? Is it a new product launch? What should we be paying attention to in your world of technology?
I think we'll be talking next Thursday morning. I mean, like, obviously, Godfather of AI, Jensen, Nvidia, like when they report. Look, I think to me, Bo, we've talked about in the show, obviously the last few weeks, like you look at earnings season, that was a validation moment for tech, validation for AI. And I think now it comes down to with Nvidia reporting, like, okay, like what is demand and supply? We think demand and supply is 10 to 12 to 1. And I think that is going to be the next data point that ultimately I think puts fuel in this rally. I believe tech stocks rally hard into year end, despite some, whether it's Fed, geopolitical, and other sort of headline risk or news.
Hey Dan, can Intel catch up to, let's say, Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing, contract chip making, Nvidia and chip design? You know, they miss out on this boom in spending in artificial intelligence.
I mean, it's like me going to Rucker Park and playing in a pickup game with an NBA player. It's just not. Look, they've missed the window. I'm not saying like you can't have some small victories, but I mean, that's the shame of the thing. Like they've missed it. Now, look, I can't. You have a big install base. You could have some wins here and there, but you look where TSMC, you look at Nvidia, you look what Broadcom's done, you look at obviously what Lisa Su and AMD has done. I think that's part of the problem with Intel. And look, I mean, U.S. government, SoftBank, others will get involved, but they have to stop running it like motor vehicle.